Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Art of MMA. I'm your host, Mike Ginn. We are doing this on a Wednesday. I know yesterday was a little weird for me too, not having an episode, but we are back. And of course, I'm joined by none other. I'm talking about professional kickboxer, the mechanic, Brandon Cuttino. Brandon, what's up, buddy?
It's a Wednesday. You know what it is.
Look, you even hesitated saying that. And
hey, gotta get in there. That's gonna be the new saying now, man.
You
Wednesday,
better get used to it.
It is.
And if you guys are watching the video, looking at the stream, you'll see a new face joining us. I'm talking about Tim Wheaton. He has his own MMA podcast. I'm talking about Calf Kick Sports. So we're awesome to have him join us. Tim, how you doing, man?
Hanging out, man. I'm excited for a good weekend of fights, and I'm excited to discuss it. You know, like I've been breaking it down for a couple of weeks, and I just want to tell you, I just got so much going on. I'm ready to talk about this event.
Well, hopefully they stop moving the card around and maybe give us something firm to talk about and stop moving fights. But we will get to that later. First, a little bit business at hand. Brandon, you know what time it is. Art of MMA shop.com, artofmma.com/shop. We're going to have to get Tim a shirt. He's brand new to the show, so we're going to get him on more often when we can, kind of cross-promote each other's shows. He's got a Pride shirt on, so at least it's MMA. But check the promo above. The code is going to be Wednesdays in honor of us moving to Wednesday. It's still weird to say for Brandon and I. We've done Tuesday for 30 episodes since last September. So Wednesday gives us a chance to be a little closer to the events on the weekend. Brandon has his own reasons for just up and rooting, moving the whole damn show. But we'll get to that eventually, I hope, soon. But guys, you ready to hop into some MMA news? All right, let's do this. First and foremost, this is more of a formality. I think we knew a couple weeks ago when Jon Jones fired first round management, or they mutually parted ways, as they want to politely say, that the negotiations for the title fight were just not happening. They weren't going Jon Jones' way. We kind of said as much then that this is probably like crap in the bed right now, and Jon Jones is pissed. Well, he has right to be, because now it's going to be Lewis getting the first shot at Ngannou sometime this summer. I'm guessing later this summer if they haven't announced an actual fight date. But Dana said Lewis and Ngannou is going to happen this summer. Tim, you're new to the show, so I'll start with you. I got a couple questions. One, do you think this fight's going to be better than the last one? Can we expect something a lot better than the last Ngannou-Lewis fight? And B, do you think the Jon Jones fight will ever happen? What do you think?
It has to be a better fight than their initial fight, but that's not saying very much. If they throw 5 strikes, that is technically a better fight than their first fight. Honestly, there are a couple of guys who focus themselves on being counterpunchers, and they're both a little bit scared of each other's power. I don't know why a 5-round fight would go much different than their original 3-round fight that they had. But if that's what the UFC wants to do, whatever, I'll talk about it.
I don't think they have a choice.
That's the unfortunate part. I feel like the Jones and Ngannou fight had such a groundswell of hype. I really want that fight to happen, but I feel like we're going to see this fight as like a George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, or a Khabib Ferguson, where years down the line we feel cheated because we never got that fight. But there's so much excitement. Why not Lewis Stipe and then Jones and Ngannou? That's the fight we all want. It's a better style matchup. I don't know. What do you guys think, though?
Brandon, I'll ask you what you think about Lewis and Ngannou. But also, Dana floated the idea of the other way of what Tim just said, having Jones fight Stipe. Jones quickly kind of shot that down in his now notorious style of deleted tweets. But, of course, the internet, nothing is ever really gone if you're famous. What do you think of the whole situation?
I mean, Lewis did come out and say how he would fight Ngannou for like $8 million. So I don't know if that's really what he's going to get paid for that fight.
I'm pretty sure Lewis would fight for $8, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, hey man, kudos to him if he is the one getting the title shot. I mean, I don't blame Jon Jones if they're trying to float him versus Stipe. I still think he wants to get his money's worth, because anyway, Stipe might not be champion, but he's a former champ, so that still has some clout. That still has some name. So to me, Jon Jones still is going to want to get paid either way, if it's Stipe or if it's Ngannou, or heck, it could be Lewis if Lewis wins again against Ngannou. To me,
for Jones' credit, he didn't say he didn't want to fight Stipe. He just doesn't want to fight him now. He said once he wins the belt, he'll defend it against Stipe, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, to me, nothing changes with Jon Jones. The man just wants to get paid. You pay the man, he'll fight for you. Like I always say, man. They're prize fighters. John Jones finally has it in mind. He wants the prize now.
Tim, don't steal that idea. That's going to be the next shirt.
But no, Brandon, you brought up a really good point with this is kind of the setup that the UFC has built, where it makes far more sense for fighters to pursue money and prize fighting style fights than pursue legacy fights. And we're seeing that now with Dustin Poirier just says like, nah, I want that superstar fight, right? And like even the last event that we had with defending the welterweight title, we had Kamaru Usman. He picked out Jorge Masvidal because he sells better than anyone else at welterweight. He's not the top contender, but that's the kind of environment that the UFC has created now, where you want to pursue prize fights.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have let's be real. The days of Randy Couture, even Tim Sylvia, who's still kind of fighting here and there, the days of these guys, Andrei Arlovski, fighting forever, and most of those are bigger guys, like especially the lighter weight guys. There's a short window to fight and get your things in and get your money. And Conor changed the blueprint for that. So I'm not mad at John Jones for wanting more money, but I think John Jones also at some point has to accept his market and accept who he's working for, because are you gonna sit out the rest of your career? Or are you just gonna call it a day? Because at this point, you're gonna have to make a decision pretty soon. You're not getting any younger either. And John Jones is going to decide, do I want to accept 8, 10, whatever the number is, to get this major fight and continue my legacy? Or am I good with what I've done? Because let's be real, when John Jones was 20 and ruling the world, he said he'd be retired by 30. So here he is a few years later, still, wanting to keep fighting. So that is that. Speaking of coming out of retirement, we're going to move on to another story. We'll talk about Anthony Rumble Johnson's return to the cage later on today. But I could not put this news story in there. Anthony obviously won by knockout, and then he goes home and gets arrested. He was arrested for identity theft, illegal use of a credit card, going between Connecticut and Florida on somebody else's credit card. The person naming the accusations has been kept out of the news, but it also kind of feels like maybe he was helping Anthony, and then Anthony turned his back on him, and he's like, all right, I'm charging you for this. And Anthony didn't pay it. And then here we are now, fresh off a great comeback, even though Anthony thought it was a shit performance, but fresh off a comeback. And now here he is getting locked up. So we won't really talk too much about this because there's still a lot of details to come out. But just wanted to put that out there as a news story because, quite honestly, it's just shocking. Anthony Rumble Johnson's always kind of kept his nose clean. Never really heard much about anything other than him missing weight. Like, that was always the biggest controversy throughout his career. And here he is, right off his comeback win. Him and Romero just jinxed. We may never see that fight now. Speaking of comebacks, we're just going to stay on the segue, and I do want to get your guys' opinion on this one, especially you, Brandon. And I'll start with you on this one. Dana White, not so confident Nick Diaz is coming back ever. I've said this a million times. I don't think he ever he's coming back. He's just the name the fans will never let go. He's getting up there in age. Nick Diaz is what, like 37 now, something like that.
Like that, yeah.
And every time the guy gets in shape, like, oh my God, I get in shape. Keep in mind, he kind of stays in shape because he's an Iron Man type like character. Every time he gets in shape, the fans go batshit. Now I get that he's a cult figure, but do you think we will ever see him back in the cage, Brandon?
To be honest with you, man, I don't know, because I really don't know what Nick Diaz wants to do. Like, I don't know. To me, if he wants to fight, he'll fight. But to me, I feel like he's just waiting for the right person. And plus, too, I don't even know what weight he wants to fight at. Does he want to fight at 185? Does he want to fight at 170? Because there's so many options for him. Because I remember a while back, I heard that the rumor was it was going to be a Nick Diaz versus Dan Hardy fight, because it would that way would have been two guys who were on long layoffs. They could just fight each other. They don't have to worry about anything, and they could just have the fight. But who knows, man? Dan Hardy still hasn't come back. He's kind of been on the shelf either. So honestly, I mean, I would love to see a Nick Diaz fight. Why not? But I really don't know. I don't know what he wants to do with his life.
Tim, Dana and Nick met this weekend. They met in Jacksonville. It was Nick's manager this time that kind of floated the idea of him coming back. And then they met in Jacksonville. They had a good meeting. And even though Nick was like, all right, let's think about fights for the summer, like thinking fights later in the year, Dana still kind of came out with this feeling like, I'm not sure he really wants to fight. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't entirely know either. He's been teasing it, like you said, for a decade now. But one of the weird things is that we've hardly seen him fight for the last 10 years, even. I think he's had like 2 fights in the last 10 years or something like that. Like Brandon said in the last episode, he has a cult that follows him. The Nick Diaz army is absolutely no joke. The Diaz brothers have a rabid fan base. So if you put like Nick Diaz versus a rematch with BJ Penn in 2021, that will still sell 1 million pay-per-views. And I don't want that fight. No one should make that fight. But if Nick does want to come back, my pick was Robbie Lawler. Like, if you want to even get Nick Diaz a win, Lawler has shown that if you put a lot of pressure on him and throw a trillion strikes at him, he's going to cover up a little bit.
I think it has to be Carlos Condit.
I've heard Condit as well. I don't love the fight.
Condit wants that fight. Even though Condit won, he wants that fight.
Are you a 1-4-5 Diaz guy, or are you a normal person?
I mean, if Diaz
Condit, baby.
There you go. Yeah.
let's be real though. If Diaz comes back, what's he got to lose? He's going to go balls to the wall. He's going to want to fight you in the middle of the cage. He's going to taunt you. He's going to say, "Let's go." He's going to be like, "Come on, stop hiding, stop running." And Condit's still going to fight the way Condit fights. He's going to dance around you. He's going to pick you apart. He's going to try to knock you out from strikes and angles like he always does. It doesn't make a great matchup. It did make a great matchup the last time. It left fans wondering who really won because Condit landed more, but Diaz was pushing the action more. So it makes me like, I keep going back to this theory. Like, I love the way One does their scoring. Me and like One is starting to develop a relationship with us. I'll be honest. I'll put it out there, but I don't like a lot of the way One does a lot of things. I'm still expecting them to overturn the Rueg decision coming up soon, some point when they start thinking about how they're going to promote him next. Because they're like, oh, we need to make him undefeated again. Let's do like we did with Eddie Alvarez. Let me just turn to a no contest. Speaking of New Jersey Athletic Commission's Brandon. But anyway, we'll get to that later too. That's a segue at home, people. We're telling you later. But yeah, like what Nick Diaz do you see? But he doesn't have much to lose. I just don't think Condit's a good matchup for him. I think, if anything, I do like Robbie Lawler. I think they'll both bring the action. They're both old Strikeforce guys. I think there's a lot of history there. It's
Donald
just
Cerrone. Cerrone was the other fight people threw out as well.
Cerrone's a good fight. Though we'll talk about that later too. I'm not sure. I know Dana's going to give him another fight, but I'm not sure I want to see him back in the cage. We almost rode him off into the sunset after his last loss. We were talking about that. That was funny enough, episode 1. That's how far it goes back. And then like the next week, I think we talked about Diego Sanchez. So that's how that all goes full circle. And Sergio was like, stop trying to retire these fighters. It's just like, well, they're trying to retire themselves at this point. All right, we're going to move on. And Dana's made a bunch of headlines. He made like a big like presser. So this is where a lot of the news has come from. It's been kind of a slow news week. And we don't want to just kind of rehash the whole Diego Sanchez thing from last week. I think that's been kind of talked about enough. And the only thing you could talk about it is really just speculation. There is no real facts behind the Diego Sanchez thing. You can talk about how much you hate his manager. You can talk about how his manager's looking out for him. Everybody is just on both sides. It's not really – there'll be more details to come out. And when they do, we'll talk about it. But the last thing Dana really kind of said that made headlines, and – I'm only saying this for Brandon because I know it just dashes his hopes that Amanda Nunes would eventually knock Jake Paul the fuck out. There's no way he would ever loan a fucking UFC fighter to box Jake Paul. Guys, I'll throw this out there for a couple minute discussion before we just go ahead and get out of here for this one. But this brings to mind 2 things. One, he saw his boy, who, by the way, he hated Ben Askren for years. Hated Ben. So, but he put his money in his mouth behind him, and then he mooched on his bet. So he saw a guy he thought was going to knock Jake Paul out, get knocked out, whether it was fixed, whether Ben just has no striking ability whatsoever, whatever you want to kind of look at that. Tim, I'll ask you this. Do you think that, we will ever see a UFC fighter, an active, real UFC fighter? And I think the closest thing, honestly, I think we'll ever get is maybe Tyron Woodley, who's like now a former UFC fighter because he's a free agent. He's not coming back. Actually step up to fight Jake Paul. And 2, is Dana's motivations more personal at this point because he basically mooched on that $2 million bet that both Snoop and Jake are calling him out on? What do you think?
I mean, it's Dana White. I don't want to call him out here, but like he's not known.
Go ahead, we do this isn't your show. You don't got to protect him. We do it every week.
Yeah.
He's not coming on Art of MMA. I promise you. We've been Ariel Hawani.
There you go. Yeah,
that's a verb.
We're all blacklisted. We're all sure dogged at this point. Yeah, we're not at the shows anymore. He's reneged on his words pretty much for every major thing that he's called out, right? Like, so it's not a surprise that he didn't do the $1 million bet. I'm not surprised there. But at this point, Jake Paul has won. We're at a point where we don't want to talk about Jake Paul, but we know that gets interactions. We put Jake Paul crap up on our Instagram. That stuff gets clicks.
Shout out to Alex Soto. He wants to talk about him.
He wants to, man. Dana White is the biggest promoter on the planet, and he's asked in press conferences not about this event upcoming, but instead people are asking about Jake Paul. Jake Paul has won, man. Whether he fights a UFC fighter or not, it's kind of a no-win situation for the UFC. They barely let Conor do it against Floyd. I can't see it. It's only a benefit to the fighter involved because they get paid a lot, but it's basically a no-win situation for the UFC is what I see.
What do you think, Brandon?
Honestly, I'll call him, man. I think Dana White's lying. I can see it happening because, again, like we talk about, man, it's about money. It's about money. Like Tim just said, right? He almost didn't want to do it with Floyd Mayweather, but he still did it. Why? They still got paid. Like Conor got paid, but they got a cut of Conor's money. I think it's the same thing. If whoever they let go, they're gonna get half of that money anyway. And then plus two, they can promote their Zuffa boxing or whatever it is that they want to promote and get more money either way, because they know Jake Paul will bring sales. He's gonna bring eyeballs. They're gonna get pay-per-view buys. Like to me, I think he can say that no, he won't. But if somebody came to him, like say Kamaru Usman came to him and said, oh hey, I want him, or Daniel Cormier, I mean, I think Dana White would definitely back them up.
Well, first, I do stick with what I think. I think the next fight is going to be Tyron Woodley if he does fight a big name. Now, there's also been some kind of up-and-coming boxers to call him out. Ryan Garcia. There was another one I saw. This kid video wants to call him out. I can't remember his name right now. I think Tyron Woodley's probably the closest we'll get to another MMA fighter, just because they already kind of set it up. They kind of played it a little bit. But let me ask you this, Brandon. Would a commission ever sanction? I know they've done men versus women before, but would they ever sanction on that level of popularity and everybody putting it on the TV, Amanda versus Jake? Would they ever sanction that?
I want to say it depends on where you're going. I'm sorry, man. I don't want to diss your state, but if it's in Florida, I can see it happening. We all know Florida.
I know you're not talking trash, New Jersey.
Hey, New Jersey is one of the top 3. All right, get out of here with that. I'm saying Florida, Texas, they might let it happen.
Tell Ferreira that.
I will.
All right, that's as much as I want to spend on Jake Paul. But Tim's right; he is winning. As much as we hate the subject, we keep talking about it. He's winning. Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather, they're winning. They got people. Nobody expects Logan to stand two rounds with Floyd unless Floyd plays with him the way he did Conor. But guess what? They had a big press conference. Jake stole his hat. Now he wants to fight them both. They're winning. They're definitely winning the promo battle. They're doing it WWE style. And as wrestling fans, and me and Brandon are, I can't speak for Tim. I don't know, but are you a wrestling fan, Tim?
I was. So Attitude Era, and then I haven't been kept up.
Come on, you got Drew McIntyre now. Come on, Scotland. Let's go.
Man, I barely know Scotland. I just moved here, but about that one.
That's all right. You lived there longer than I lived in Tampa, so. And I'm already rooted. I love the sunshine. I was at the beach last weekend. I'm going to the beach again this weekend. Sorry, Brandon. Last bit of news before we hop into the results. I just want to send a shout out to Allergy Bond. Look, man, he's had a fantastic career. He's 38 years old. He's taken time off a few times. He's ending his career on a win over Jared Gooden. I didn't really see the retirement coming, but it makes sense because, the dude's like an ageless wonder. You look at him, you don't see 38. The guy still looks like he's in his 20s. He's just got such a baby face. He's got wins over Ben Saunders, Mike Perry, Bilal Muhammad. You want to go back in the day, man. He's been fighting all the way since 2011. So a 10-year career. He's calling it a day. He's calling it retirement, focusing more on his announcing duties, more on his shows that he's been doing. Him and Karen Bryant always got some stuff going on with their production company that they got. So a lot of stuff working out. They've been partnered up for a long time. Despite rumors, they are not romantically. They're both like married to different people, but there you go. You guys, Tim, what's your favorite memory of Allen?
I think it's actually retirement. And let me explain why. We were just talking about Diego Sanchez and Donald Cerrone. Fighters are too tough for their own good. We get guys like Dan Hardy who are saying, like, I'm willing to die in. I don't want to hear that. I want more guys like Allen who are saying, like, my injuries are adding up. I'm not going to be champion in this sport. I'm not going to take unnecessary damage. I'm going to retire on my terms. And I love that.
Yeah. To go out on a win, go out on the good side. Brandon, what do you think?
No, man. Hey, good. Hey, if a fighter wants to retire, let him retire. I actually enjoy his analyst work. So I mean, I like the mesh of him being behind the desk. So hey, we'll still get to see him. We'll still get to hear his insight. I enjoy it. Keep it up, man. Good job, Allen.
He's been great at analyst work for years. You know,
Yep.
It's like him and Kenny Florian. Like Kenny Florian's did both for a while, and then he just transitioned firmly into an analyst role. And now Allen's doing the same thing. So shout out to Allen. Congrats on a great career. 17 and 7. So nice winning career. He fought some tough fighters along the way. So shout out to him. All right, guys, you ready to get in some results?
Yes.
All right, let's move on. Let's start off with PFL 3 from last week. Talking about Fabricio Werdum versus Renan Ferreira as the main event. Other fights saw Kayla Harrison getting started on her run to another title, and then some other upsets as well. We'll talk about those in a second, but let's go ahead and just talk right into the New Jersey Athletic Commission, Brandon. We're going to throw this right at you. In the fight, Fabricio Werdum had Renan Ferreira locked in a triangle. I've watched the replays several times. If you slow it down, absolutely, it looks like Ferreira tapped before he starts striking him again. But if you're watching it real speed, it looks like he's just trying to find him. Because if this is just like, if you watch it back real speed, and thankfully to ESPN Plus, we can all do that. He literally had his head down, like he was smothered and not even really looking at Fabricio. It looked like he was reaching to see where he was because he didn't even hesitate. After he found him, he started punching him. So you can argue that it's a tap because of the way he grabbed him or the way he tapped him, but it wasn't like tap, 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 tap. It was literally like 1, 2. But he immediately started punching him. So I'm very torn on whether it was an actual tap or an accidental tap. Maybe he got caught in a spot and he tapped, but he didn't mean to. And maybe he hoped the referee didn't see it, which he didn't. And then on top of that, and I'm sure Dominic Cruz has something to say about Keith Peterson, but on top of that, we talked about this offline, Brandon. You defend yourself at all times. You don't stop until the ref stops you. Derek Lewis famously pounds opponents after he knocks them out until the ref says no more, because you don't know. You don't know if somebody's going to hop right back up. You don't know if somebody's going to keep punching you in the face like Ferreira did. Now, there's 2 storylines to this before I get to you guys. One, before going into the fight, you said you didn't know who Renan Ferreira was. Well, I think the most ironic storyline was that Renan Ferreira played Fabricio Werdum in a movie. I never saw the movie. I don't know what they're talking about, but that was a fun fact. And 2, we talked about if it stays standing or striking, then Fabricio has no chance. And even though it went to the ground, once it started raining down blows on Fabricio, his 43 years old showed through real quick because he went to sleep or went like la-la. Brandon, I'll start with you. What do you think of the whole situation, and what do you think of the short part of the fight that we saw?
I mean, hey, man, Fabricio did look good in that fight. He had him down. He was doing his thing. You know, he went for his submissions. I mean, to me, like when we were talking and saying off air, I thought he tapped. It looked like he tapped to me. But then going on what you're saying is right. He looked like he was fighting him, but where he touched him at was his shoulder. I would go more with your story if his hands had touched Fabricio's head, because that then goes like, okay, he was looking for his head. He knew where his head was and he started throwing. But no, he hit his shoulder 2 times. Then he went to his face. So that to me doesn't add up with what you're trying to supply. And little inside thing. Like I said, I knew a guy that was judging the event. He actually was judging the main event. I asked him his thoughts. He said it looked like a tap to him, but he wasn't the ref. He was judging that fight, but they didn't have to go to him, with the scorecards because the fight got stopped. But that was somebody that was there live that saw it. He is an MMA judge. He has experience and everything like that. But I mean, it's one of those things. It's like we say, right? You stop until the ref stops it. You don't stop it yourself. Saying because like I said, Fabricio, he is a jiu-jitsu guy, and trust me, I've been to plenty of jiu-jitsu tournaments. I've seen there are different types of taps. There are the taps where, like you said, there are the 1, 2, 3. There are some people who just do the 1 tap. There are some people who do the 2 taps. Some people do it verbally, like saying there are different ways to tap. So I think just Fabricio felt the 2. He was like, oh, he's done. And as he started getting punched in the face, and he was like, wait, what the heck's going on? So I don't know. Those are my 2 cents.
Tim, what do you think?
No, I agree. It's a bit of a surprise that Fabricio has been around for such an incredibly long time in this sport. Like, he was fighting Rogerio Nogueira for a heavyweight pride title. He fought in Strikeforce. He's also a competitor in ADCC. So he's been around for a long time. And 19 years, and he knows jiu-jitsu extremely well. Now, I do distinctly remember when he submitted Fedor clearly tapped. And then Fabricio held the choke and looked to the referee for the referee to step in and stop the fight. So it's weird. 10 years on, he's just like, oh yeah, whatever, he tapped. I'm done now. To me, it did look like a tap, but it was on the opposite side. Whether or not the fighter did that on purpose or he just tapped and found an opportunity when the choke loosened, I'm not entirely sure. But it is kind of impressive that this fight was overturned so quickly. That kind of stuff never happens. I think just last month in that boxing match where the referee said it was a headbutt, they checked the replay. It wasn't a headbutt, but they said, well, the ref called it a headbutt, so we're not going to do anything about this. Yeah, it's really rare that athletic commissions do anything about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the thing that bothers me is this. One, you want to respect the referee's decision for one. It wasn't a blatant enough tap to where we can say for 100% sure. Everybody has an opinion. And 2, and Brandon, you just mentioned this again, you fight until the ref stops you. And Tim just mentioned it. He didn't let go against Fedor. Yep. I don't think, and you texted me this, you said you didn't think he let go either. You think he just got punched out of it. He didn't look like, he can say in press conferences, oh, I felt him tap, so I stopped. Watch that fight. He didn't stop. He got punched in the face a bunch of times till he went loopy. He didn't stop. If he loosened up, it was like a degree. It wasn't enough where he couldn't have just tightened it up the moment that he started getting rained down on punches again. He could have easily tightened that right back up if he was still in the same position. I feel if he did tap, it was accidental. That's my opinion. They're definitely going to have to, at some point, run this back later in the season. I know they have their format. I know people got to match up differently, but PFL is definitely missing an opportunity. Maybe it won't be in June when they come back. Maybe it'll be later in the fall. But they got to run it back. And I think the whole situation is just a black eye on what's been overall a great experience from PFL so far this season. Referees miss things. It happens. But to this extent to where you go from – and who was it that we were just talking about not too long ago that got hit with a body kick and they called it a low blow? Was that Herman?
No, Ed
Herman. Right? Yeah, Ed Herman. Sometimes refs miss things. It happens. You want to go back to the Jake Paul fight we were just talking about, the boxing fight on that one, like the co-main event where the dude got hit with a body kick and acted like he got hit in the nuts and was stretchered out.
That's right too.
He played it out. So sometimes, it happens, but when you get hit immediately, Fabricio could have been like, all right, tighten up. Because he didn't just get hit once. He got hit like a dozen times or so. And Fabricio just kept what he didn't even try to protest to the refs. He was just getting hit. It was in the moment of the fight. He may have thought afterwards he got tapped out. But in the moment, I don't think Fabricio was thinking as clearly as he was trying to make it out like he was. So that situation's going to probably be talked about for a while. Over in the co-main event, a situation that's not going to be talked about much at all. Kayla Harrison came. She saw, we talked about the experience that Moraes has, 26 years old, and she's had like 26, 27 fights. But Kayla Harrison just ran right through her, just like she did in Invicta last year, just like she did in PFL last year. Kayla Harrison looks like the real deal. Tim, what do you think about Kayla Harrison?
I absolutely love her. I love the potential that we're seeing. I think MMA, when we look back historically, is a sport that has always been fighting for legitimacy. So whenever we have someone who's an Olympic gold medalist, we absolutely love this kind of person. And I still have those feelings. I absolutely love seeing an Olympic gold medalist compete in this sport. Her future, I really hope that at the end of the season, the UFC does send her an offer. I don't know whether or not they want to open up a 155 or she is able to cut, but she has an exciting future.
Well, she fought in Invicta at 145.
Man, they need anyone in that weight class, so that'll do them. That'll be great. Clarissa Shields is also there, and I'm really excited for that matchup. Another Olympic gold medalist. Like, it's a story that writes itself. I'm just so excited.
Brandon, Kayla's striking, though. I mean, talk about Clarissa Shields. You hope her grappling's up to speed and she doesn't pull a James Toney, but Kayla's striking's gotten a ton better since she started. And she just keeps getting better. She's training down there in South Florida with a bunch of killers. So what she's going to bring. Do you think, and Dana, by the way, said he doesn't think she's ready. I think he's full of shit. I just don't think there's anybody for her to fight except for Amanda and maybe Felicia Spencer. Like, that's it. I mean, it is what it is. I think she does have more fights in PFL, and she definitely has more fights in Bellator if that's what she wants with Cyborg and some of those bigger girls they have over there. What do you think of Brandon?
I mean, she did look good. I mean, hey, she's trying to say that this isn't a tournament. This is her, her ceremony because she's the queen, so everybody's just here just to watch her, get her crown. I mean, I do know what you're talking about with Dana White. Dana White said that they did offer her a contract a while back, but I guess her team thought that maybe she wasn't ready. But it's like we talked about. Like, I'm saying, I don't know. Like you said, like the UFC 145 division is obsolete. Like, there's nobody really in there. There's like two or three people. So I don't know if she really wants to be in a division that really can't, hold itself. But 155, you got a whole bunch of ladies now coming. And I'm still telling you this, man, Megan Anderson is still free. She's still a free agent. I'm still thinking that she might go to 155 and hang out in the PFL, and she can maybe give her a good challenge. And then plus, like you said, Clarissa Shields, we gotta see what she can offer in June. She's
Larissa
hanging out at
Vichenko.
Jackson Winks.
Larissa Vichenko, she had her knockout.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a guarantee she's gonna walk through this. Caitlin Young.
Exactly. Like saying Kate, like I told you, the Caitlin Young fight was a fight I was looking forward to. I mean, her takedown defense or blocking the judo defense was looking good. So I mean, like I said, like I think 155 for the PFL could really be thriving maybe next season for them. Because like I said, Megan Anderson is still free. Who knows what she wants to do? Like I said, she is a tall girl, so maybe 145 might be too big of a cut for her, but 155 would be a lot easier for her.
I feel like Dana loves to do, like, this is the reason why Clarissa Shields didn't sign with the UFC. They were like, all right, we're going to give you one fight, and then we're going to put you in with Amanda. Or a big name, as she put it. But obviously there's only one big name in that weight class. Maybe Holly Holm, but her and Holly Holm are friends and train together, so I doubt that would happen. Clarissa said, no, I'm not ready for that. Let me get a few fights, and then I'll see where I am in a couple years. Most likely Dana offered Kayla the same thing. Like Tim said, Olympic medalist, big name coming out of the Olympics. Hey, here's a fight, and then we'll throw you right in there. Now, this was a number of years ago, so at that point, it might even have still been Ronda on the name of Dana's lips. Who knows? It could have been Amanda at that point. It could have been Holly Holm. It could have been anything. Kayla took the same path. She's like, I need to train. I need to become a better MMA fighter. And it's worked out for her as well. Sergio used to always famously say, UFC is not the only show in town. And I think right now for women's fighters, the lighter fighters are better off in UFC. The atom weights, the straw weights, those divisions are incredible right now. Bantamweight is fading. they're running out of competition for Amanda. I know Brandon's definitely looking forward to the Juliana Pena fight. But the featherweight division is a ghost. So, and Megan Anderson,
Bellator.
I do want to put this out too. One, I don't know if we'll see Megan Anderson fight again. I just don't. She has a lot of things going on outside the MMA world. She does her Twitch streaming. She makes money modeling. She does a lot of stuff. She does love fighting. We'll see where her heart is. Maybe she does jump into Bellator. I think she has a fight lined up immediately for Cyborg if she wants to, just because of name value, and Bellator is so desperate to find somebody to fight Cyborg. And they've already fought once, I believe, right? No, they never fought. For some reason, I thought they did. But they're so desperate to fight they keep running people back against Cyborg. So I think the future is brighter in Bellator and PFL for bigger, especially the bigger girls, the 145 and up divisions. So Kayla's where she needs to be, and she's running through. Go ahead, Tim.
This might be what you're thinking of. I just quickly brought it up. Cyborg was expected to face Megan Anderson to fight for the vacated UFC Women's Featherweight Championship at UFC 214.
Oh, that's right. And it never happened.
That's right.
Because Anderson got hurt or something like that.
Something like that.
All right. Real quick before we move on, a couple other things to talk about on this card. Kamaru Usman's brother, Muhammad, got choked out by Brandon Sales. I actually didn't know Brandon Sales' story before this. He's actually a pretty talented fighter. He didn't rate his performance very high. He was actually on his vacation from the Army. He is or the military. I think it was the Army. He is actually an active duty military soldier right now. So that's why we haven't seen a lot of Brandon Sales over the years. He's a really big guy. I think he's like 6'6", 6'7". He's a big guy. Usman is an athlete. You can see the athlete in him. You can see the football player in him. You can see he can land. He landed a couple times, but he fought a guy so much bigger that every time he landed, Sales just kind of walked through it. I want to say this. I think if Usman gets more training and continues on his path, he's training out in Colorado. Maybe eventually he joins up with his brother. I think Usman can be really good, but I do think he has a ways to go. So let the hype train kind of slow down a little bit. Let him find himself in MMA. Obviously, who his brother is, everybody was hyping him up real quick, but let him kind of find himself. Who knows? His next matchup might be a better opponent for him. He might run through him. So we'll see. I kind of calmed down on that after Brandon. I was like, I was crapping on him at first, and then Brandon's like, wait a minute. Larissa Pachenko, the other big kind of fight, she went and had her TKO win. Caitlin Young got a decision over Dandos. A couple of the names on that one. All right, guys, let's go ahead and swing over and talk about the return of Bellator 258. They'd been off a couple weeks. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into that main event. It was a great scrap between Archuleta and Pettis. Archuleta was the one that both me and Brandon picked, but Pettis did what he had to do. He didn't do anything flashy. He didn't do anything fancy. He just picked him apart. Every time Archuleta would come in, Pettis used his boxing, Pettis used his range, and he just counterpunched him pretty much for 5 rounds and won the fight. Tim, what did you think of the fight?
Sergio looked great, and it's nice to see because he entered the UFC several years ago as an extremely young man, and it's very rare that type of fighter really does develop into like the John Jones model, for example, when they join up and they're super young and they look amazing and they're amazing forever. Sergio was a guy who had a couple of losses and he found success outside the UFC, and that doesn't mean he won't eventually come back to the UFC and win the championship. He is still a young enough person that he is clearly developing. He's clearly growing his fight IQ. So I'm extremely happy to see Sergio win. And like you guys said, I was picking Juan as well to win this fight just because I didn't really believe in Sergio, honestly.
Yeah. Brandon?
And like I said, me and you, we both picked one. Like I've been a fan of Sergio Pettis like before.
Oh, now you're a fan? First, you were fanboying off Juan Archuleta because of the TV show.
Saying. See, man, you never let me finish. Like I said, I was a fan of Sergio Pettis before he ever even got into the UFC. Saying the reason why I was picking Juan Archuleta was because I just didn't think Sergio Pettis really was a 135er. Because like I said, before he was in the UFC, he was fighting at 125.
Yeah.
Then when he got to the UFC, he fought at 135 because I think at the time, the 125 was just starting out, but they weren't letting nobody in. Then I think he did a couple of fights at 125, and then for some reason he just stopped and went back up to 135. That's why I thought Juan Archuleta would just be bigger, and he can get Sergio down and keep him there. But Sergio, he had other thoughts. They said he kept the fight really standing up. He used his counter shots, good movement. You know, he kind of really kept Juan Archuleta guessing on what it is that he was going to do. So kudos to him. He's a champ. Hopefully, he is out. He is out of his brother's shadow, because really in the family, he is the champion now.
Man, he looks just like him now too. The older Sergio gets, the more he looks exactly like Anthony. Same facial hair, same everything. Like, it's like a little twin. I mean, I picked Archuleta too. I thought Archuleta was the bigger fighter. He actually was the bigger fighter. He was just slower. And Sergio just beat him to every punch. I thought the fight was a little closer than the scorecards kind of gave it credit for. But when they had like a couple of them that were 4 rounds to 1, I knew there was no doubt that that was going to go Sergio's way. He just had the cleaner rounds. He had the cleaner shots, and ended up, it wasn't a lot of takedowns. It wasn't a lot of this. It was just counterpunching for 5 rounds. And he did what he was supposed to. And hopefully, Sergio's a young kid. He's still in his 20s. Like, he's still 27. So, I mean, he's still got a ways to go, and he's only getting better. So I'll be interested to see who they match him up with. For Archuleta, that's 2 losses in a row. So we'll see. It was that well, but his last loss was also at 145 before that against, Patricio. So that's not a bad loss either. In the co-main, both Brandon and I picked Anthony Johnson. It was actually a little more competitive than I thought. Brandon, what did you think of that fight? Because Acevedo brought it, and he even at one point dropped him with a broken hand, evidently. So what did you think?
Hey man, it was a good fight. I mean, kudos to Acevedo for taking the fight, because like I said, he could have been like another fighter and said no to the fight. But again, like I said, man, these are moments right here. You know what I'm saying? This is a Grand Prix tournament. Saying you win the tournament, you get $1 million, and also too, you get the title as well. So I mean, he went for it. He almost stopped Anthony Johnson, but Rumble came back, and then he was one who got the finish. But that's why I say kudos though to him, because again, man, we don't know what Anthony Johnson was going to be like. He was coming off a layoff. I mean, he did blow up. I mean, man, if you would have saw the
photos of him, man.
I mean, the dude was probably 300 pounds, man.
He was doing football training, wasn't he? Like training football players or something like that.
I don't know, man. I know he had his CBD company or whatever, or his weed company that he was doing. But like I said, man, he let himself go, and then boom, he came back down to the 205. And I mean, hey, kudos to Rumble as well, for doing that transformation and get himself back into the winning circle.
Tim, what you think of that fight? I thought Rumble looked. For as far as conditioning, like Brandon's talking about, Rumble looked great as far as being in shape. What you think?
Yeah, and one of the things that we've always criticized Anthony Johnson for, even since his 170 run back in 2007, is that he was a guy who kind of consistently lacked heart. When you put the pressure on him a little bit, he would start to fade, especially in the later rounds. So it's nice to see him get beat up and then rally back for a victory, because that's actually kind of fixing some of the flaws that he had. But it's amazing how long ago we thought. We were talking about Nick Diaz fighting his prime in 2008. Well, Anthony Johnson made his UFC debut in 2007 at welterweight. It's absolute madness that this guy is still fighting, still winning, and actually looked serviceable. He looked quite good winning this fight as well. I like what Bellator is doing with this tournament. I don't love everything that Bellator does, but I do like this light heavyweight tournament.
And ironically, as long as he's been fighting, he's still only 37, which in MMA terms for a light heavyweight or heavyweight is not that old.
Yeah. For a heavyweight, yeah, he's a baby.
Yeah. I thought Rumble looked good. I thought he got caught. I thought anybody can get caught, especially when, like we said, Acevedo had nothing to lose. I'd be concerned if Rumble shows up looking like that against Nemkov. I think Nemkov will finish him quick. If he doesn't clean up a little bit, could have been cage rust, could have just been his opponent. Nemkov is not going to come out there and blitz him and try to knock him out right off the bat. He's going to pick you apart. He's going to take his shots. Rumble was very highly flattering of Nemkov. He thought he was a complete fighter. He thought he was a great opponent. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see the Romero fight anytime soon. Now it's sounding like Romero might not get licensed until at least later this year. So now we're looking at 2022 if we do see it, and that's like a 44, 45-year-old Romero. So
nothing can ever be like with Romero. Nothing can ever be just normal. He can never just have a fight scheduled, show up, go to everything has to be weird with Romero.
It's got to be.
You know what, man? I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Yoel Romero and then the tournament's over. There's your champion. That's Yoel gets the title shot. I wouldn't be surprised, man. I wouldn't be surprised, man. Yoel is a smart guy. He's a thinker.
You know what? You're not wrong. I would not be shocked at all if Scott has that set up. It's like, all right, cool. Well, you just wait till the end now. And we took you out of the tournament. You just wait. And then whoever wins that tournament, come out there. Just here comes Romero. Stare down the cage. Some other fights in that card. Peter Queally stopped Patricky Pitbull. Michael Page stopped Derek Anderson. Funny enough, back-to-back fights stopped by a doctor stoppage. Brandon was picking more Derek Anderson. I had a good feeling about Michael Page. I think he's looked fantastic his last couple of fights. It might be time to give him another title shot. Lorenzo Larkin got the split decision against Carvalho. I wasn't still sold on that split decision. Guys, Tim, did anything else stand out on that card for you? Something else like that stood out, or was that pretty much it for you?
Like you said with Michael Page, it'd be nice to see him. The constant criticism that we have is he's not fighting people on his same level, right? So it'd be nice to see him fight someone in that welterweight class that is a little bit higher of a level. So I look forward to. He's a super talented guy, but I'd love to see more from him.
Yeah, Brandon. Anything else? One other thing.
I was going to say. Speaking of Michael Venom Page, well, two things really about that situation. One, Michael Venom Page, I've been calling him for a while. The person I wanted to see him fight is Raymond Daniels. That's what I want to see, man. That is another high-level kickboxer. He's a point kickboxer like him. Like saying, I know Raymond Daniels from Bellator. He's also was at the Chuck Norris World Combat League. So, I mean, that's somebody who definitely has the striking credentials as him. And Raymond Daniels, he really has been stepping up his MMA game as well, because in his last fight, he actually did, I think, not one, but maybe two takedowns. So you never know. I think that would be an interesting fight. And then on the other side of that card with Derek Anderson, I know that he's been suspended, but the thing was, though, I think he got suspended because apparently, I guess he falsified his pre-medical record. So I didn't see what it is that he had falsified. But I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if he came in there with an injury already.
Yeah, I haven't seen the whole story. The last thing I'll talk about on that card before we hop into the UFC, because I get out of here in a little bit. Weber Almeida, Lyoto Machida's protege, he famously, renegotiated his contract in January. There was a big deal about that. His first fight back since then, he was undefeated. Well, he's got a loss now. Johnny Soto beat him in a unanimous decision, and that fight really wasn't even close. Soto just outclassed him the whole fight. So Almeida needs to go back to the drawing board a little bit. Overall, and Patrick Mix, former champion, speaking of Archuleta and all those guys, beat Albert Morales, who was the substitute for James Gallagher. So he's back on the winning trail as well. UFC last weekend, Michelle Waterson, Marina Rodriguez, another successful pick for your boy. As well, I continue to lead the standings. Tim, we're going to have to get you in the pick standings starting this week. But Brandon keeps falling further behind. Not by his own choice, more because of fights that just don't happen. This week, another fight got postponed at the very last second, Angela Hill versus Amanda Ribas. They're going to move it back a few weeks so Amanda can get over COVID. Yeah, I need to stop picking Angela Hill fights. She fights when you pick her, but when I pick her, like something happens to the fight at the last second every single time. But let's talk about that main event. Marina Rodriguez just flat out controlled Michelle Waterson from the start. Her striking was on a whole nother level. Her power was on a whole nother level. Waterson had some moments, but it was mostly Rodriguez the whole fight. Tim, what you think of that fight?
Well, I want to jump on the whole event here, where when I was writing the preview for this event, I had to write that the headlines coming into this event were bigger than the headlining fights. We had the weird Diego Sanchez thing. We had TJ Dillashaw and Sandhagen drop out, and I am still crestfallen that we did not get that fight this past weekend. But talking about this main event, the reason there wasn't huge amounts of hype around it was for two reasons. It was opposite of a Canelo fight, and we didn't learn that much from this fight. The talking points going in are the same talking points that we have coming out. Marina Rodriguez, we figured, is probably going to outstrike her at distance. Michelle Waterson usually uses some fairly good wrestling, but she's probably just going to get outranged. And that's exactly what we got in the fight. So the rankings didn't change very much. And what we know about those two fighters also didn't change very much. It was a better fight than I expected, though. But that's all I have on that.
Yeah, I didn't expect to go the distance. Brand, what do you think of the fight?
Hey, man, I mean,
and I know you picked Waterson, so.
I know I did pick Waterson. I mean, there were at times where like Waterson did have her hurt because I think she did her patented, side kick. She caught her to the body, but the thing was she didn't follow up. Then I think it was the fourth round is where Waterson did take her down, controlled her, and then for some reason though in the fifth round she didn't follow it up. She just kept it standing again. So I don't know if maybe she just got tired, she got hurt. And she couldn't follow up with that. But I mean, the only thing I just got thrown off was, man, these were both straw weights, but for some reason this fight was at 125, which I don't know why they bumped it up, or was it maybe
because it was so short notice?
They changed it to 5 rounds
because it was so short notice that Marina couldn't make that weight.
I got you, because I don't know, for some reason I had thought that they were already scheduled to fight on this card earlier.
No, they threw it together at the last second. They were going to fight in a few weeks, I believe. Mm-hmm. They just hadn't officially announced the date, but I want to say they were scheduled, like Dana was talking about them, like maybe for like another 3 weeks from now. And they moved it up because they both agreed to the fight. They moved it up because the main event dropped out. And then as a way to get Marina to say yes, because she's a little bigger girl, obviously. You're talking about Waterson, who used to fight as low as 105. Yep. They moved it to 125 as like kind of like a catch weight.
Yeah, man. Like I feel like Waterson took that fight when maybe she shouldn't have, because I feel like in reality, man, to me, Waterson should still be fighting at 105. But man, to go to 125 and fight, like that was kind of like.
You also have to remember,
Marina
didn't get into town until Thursday. Like Marina didn't even get in town until Thursday because of travel issues. Yeah. Like they almost didn't let her out of Brazil. So and she's like running into airports trying to get here. So with that and COVID testing, we're lucky we even had this main event after the last one dropped out the last second. So it was a fun fight though. Let's not sell it short. It was a fun fight for a last second fight that got put together. Both girls brought it. So in the co-main event, man, it hurts my soul. But Alex Morano told him, it's like, look, I'm going to take this fight on short notice, and I'm going to knock Cowboy out. He did what he said he was going to do. I don't know if it says as much about Alex as it does about Cerrone, because Cerrone, he didn't look great against his last fight, and he didn't look great in the Nico Price draw. He didn't look good against Pettis. Connor abused him in like a matter of seconds. Gaethje took him out in the first round. Ferguson took him out in the second round. Now, let's be real. He went through a row of killers, right? He had 4 straight losses to current or former champions in some way. Gaethje, obviously, World Series of Fighting. Ferguson, an interim champion. But 4 straight guys who've held belts in the UFC or other places. And he got beat by all of them. So losing those 4 fights weren't really a tale of who Cowboy still is. But that fight, he looked like he got punished against Nico Price. And then on top of that, Morano just came out. And at this point, it just looks like when I saw Cowboy's face when he got punched, it looked like he didn't want to be in there. I've never seen Cowboy look like that. Even when Cowboy gets hurt, like when Pettis would hit him with like the liver kick, like there's reasons Cowboy got stopped. This fight, he looked like once Morano was blitzing him, he did not want to be in that cage. And I've never seen Cowboy look like that. And that to me says even if Dana does want to give him at least one more fight to like go out on his sword, he shouldn't. Because Cowboy should say, okay, I've had a great career. Like Tim said earlier about retiring, sometimes it's a badge of honor versus getting forced out of the sport like BJ Penn or somebody else. Tim, what do you think of the whole situation?
Just earlier today, I wrote about 1,000 words on Donald Cerrone. So give me a few minutes to get through this, but I'm going to sing his praises for a minute and then just kind of give him a moratorium of like, this guy absolutely needs to retire. But Donald Cerrone, he has been a staple in the sport for so long. Whether you were watching UFC on Fuel TV or watching the WEC or even up to the ESPN era, Donald Cerrone is headline fights. Everyone knows who Donald Cerrone is. And in that time, like this was years ago, he main evented against a gentleman named Ed Ratcliffe at WEC 45. This was a 3-round non-title fight, and there was 1,700 people in the audience. And he made that fight feel like it was the center of the universe. He made it feel like it was a title fight, like it was a 5-round,
Him
you know,
and-
two. Yeah, go ahead.
Him and Benson in WEC was one of my favorite fights of all time. All time.
Absolutely. That one fight of the year on, like, I think it was definitely Sherdog, MMA Fighting, and I think Sports Illustrated all gave that fight of the year. But that's the thing. He won fight of the night 5 times in the WEC, and then he's had performance in the night bonuses 16 times in the UFC because he is a guy who is willing to go to war. And that charm, that attitude where he can make a fight feel like this is the center of the universe. We saw it on the UFC 25th anniversary when he beat Mike Perry. He just submitted Mike Perry. That's not a huge headline, but for whatever reason, in Colorado, the 25th anniversary, that talent with Donald Cerrone, that felt like that was the center of the universe. Everyone in the world was cheering for Donald Cerrone. But he has 4 wins since 2017 and 9 losses since 2017. And those were not nice losses. He wins in emphatic fashion and he loses in emphatic fashion. If you remember, Nate Diaz set the record with 238 strikes to Donald Cerrone. That damage, even though, yeah, he's only lost to champions like Gaethje and Ferguson and
I was
Pettis.
going to say, I would say the only thing about those losses is, other than the Masvidal one, every single one of those people were champions.
But what Ariel Helwani was bringing up on his show, like, yeah, he's only losing to champions up to yesterday.
Which is another thing that's always plagued him through his career, is he can't win the big one.
What's always what we talk about in the WEC and UFC. He's never been a title holder. Mentality, we want to say maybe he folds in big fights. Anyway, but the damage is still the same. Even though you're losing to champions, that's not better or worse for your damage. You're still taking the damage. And Morono is a guy who has 1 TKO victory in the UFC, and his second is now Donald Cerrone. That is not the mark of someone who has a future in the sport. I pray that, or I really do hope that Donald Cerrone calls it after this fight.
Yeah. Brandon, what do you think? I mean, we talked about this in length after the Nico Price fight, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, everything you guys are saying is so true. I mean, I just want to say, man, shout outs to Alex Moreno. I mean, good job to him. He went out, did his thing. He knew it was a big fight. Also, I want to say, I mean, because I want to say, was it his last fight or his fight before? Did he not fight Anthony Pettis and beat him as well?
He lost to Anthony Pettis.
Oh, he lost his man. I thought he beat him because
that was Anthony Pettis' last fight on his contract, where he won the fight and then went to PFL. That was last December.
Okay.
And went to a decision.
Because I just remember him like kind of just bringing it to Anthony Pettis as well. So that's why
it was a tough fight. He went the decision.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, man, maybe like we shouldn't be as shocked as we were, because he went from Anthony Pettis, now he had Cowboy Cerrone, again, top guys in the division, or should I say top guys name wise, and he brought it both times. So I mean, hey, if it's Cowboy's last fight, still had a good career. If he's gonna have one more, hopefully he gets somebody that isn't ranked, somebody that that he can hopefully get a win against.
I mean, it's a shame we didn't get the Diego fight, because that was somebody on the same talent level at this point. I mean, I thought he's way above Diego as far as like the punch drunk scale. But Diego's done for now, probably forever. Once you start asking for your medicals, it throws up red flags for everybody. So I really don't know who's left for him. We just talked about Robbie Lawler earlier. I don't know if Robbie still wants to fight. That's another fun fight for them to run that back. I don't know. I just don't see anybody else, unless you want to throw him against another young up-and-comer, see what he's got. He's kind of derailed those theories a couple times. But Morano's also, we talk about these camps, Sanford and all these guys. Morano trains at Fortis. He's probably sitting there sparring with Uriah Hall. Like, he's a submission guy that learned how to start knocking people out. You start training with some of these killers, you start getting better. MMA is always an evolving sport. It doesn't matter if you're 20, doesn't matter if you're 40, you're always learning new tricks. Usman said after that last fight, he's like, yeah, I'm the best in the world and I'm only getting better. He's been training with Whitman and he's only getting better. So it is what it is. I don't want to see Cowboy fight anymore as a fan, but it's his own decision. He's always lived, I wrote that article a long time ago, live free or die. That's his Cowboys, the way he lives. He's going to do what he wants to do, and he's earned it. So we'll see. On the rest of that card, before we get into some picks real quick, Neil Magny got the decision over Jeff Neal. That was a great fight. Both went back and forth. Rogério de Lima just basically bullied Mo Green for 3 rounds. Like, he just took him down, bullied him. Another exciting fight. Gregor Gillespie just kept the pressure on Ferreira the whole time until eventually he got to TKO. What's up, Tim?
Can I talk about that one for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
Man, Gregor, just usually when we in sports,
I can't be like, you're our guest. No, don't talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. But in sports, it's like sometimes you hear so much like hyperbole about things that are non-quantifiable, such as like heart. But this was a fight where you can actually display of like, this is how much heart this person has. Gregor Gillespie, NCAA champion. He beat Michael Chandler in their collegiate days in a wrestling match. In this fight, he went back to the corner. He could barely stand at the start of that round. And then he comes back and beats, man, it was absolutely just like, what an inspirational performance for a guy. Like his only loss is Kevin Lee at one of the coolest head kicks in history. And now he's just got this huge victory. I really look forward to more Gregor Gillespie in my life.
Yeah, when I saw this matchup, I was super excited about it. Another matchup close to Brandon's heart, Phil Halls. He looked great against Dawkins. He looked rough early. Like early on, I thought Dawkins was going to get him. And then Halls just wore him out. And by the third round, Dawkins didn't even want to get up off the ground. He was just getting punished. And then, Brandon, I'm going to give you a second to talk about this one. Your boy, your training partner, Tiger Schulman's own, Mike Trizano's back from the injury, had a little bit of a layoff. Now, I believe 9-1. He beat Ludwig Klein. Klein brought the power. Don't get it wrong. But Mike just had the perfect strategy. He kept to the outside. He kept picking him apart. Break down that fight real quick.
Hey, man. Good job to my man Mike, man. Lone Wolf out there did his thing, man. Rocking that mullet mob crew with his mullet. I don't know why he still has it, but he still does. Yeah, man.
It's signature, man.
Yeah,
it's
you know, like saying, you know, like to me, I actually thought that the first round didn't go his way. I actually kind of thought he maybe lost that first round, but then the second round, I kind of felt like he got into his groove. He started catching him more with his punches, and because that's really what he was using. He was using his boxing to kind of cut him off. Like he kept on having the octagon control the whole fight because really Klein always kept on going backwards. He never ever went forward. So Mike was always chasing him, so he was always controlling him. But then to me though, he was landing more shots.
Looked like Klein kept going backwards, trying to land the home run. Like he'd go backwards and then try to throw the home run.
Yeah, and then just Tristano just working his defense. You know, he was working some late kicks in there as well. But all in all, man, it was a good job by him, man. And I mean that third round, man, he really turned it on. Almost had him with the guillotine submission. You know, so I mean,
I'll tell you what, I thought he tapped. I thought Klein tapped at the buzzer. Like they say he didn't, but I swear to God, I saw him tap at the buzzer. So I don't know. Maybe it was right after it, but he had that guillotine in tight. And, you know, props to Trizano. People forget, you know, he was one of the highest prospects before he got hurt as well. And Klein coming off the big knockout, everybody wanted to see what he'd do next. But, you know, and I'll also be honest with you, Brandon. I'm not sure that I thought Trizano was going to win that decision. I was obviously super excited that he did. It was such a razor close fight, though, especially when Klein had some of the advantages early on. As far as the rest of the card, and then we'll go ahead and get to our picks. So, do you have to get out of here today, Brandon?
No.
Oh, cool. Well, I
told you, man. Wednesdays is free, baby.
See, another reason we moved to Wednesdays. Promo code Wednesday, artofmma.com/shop. Go get your t-shirt today or hoodie, just like Brandon's wife. Tell her to post a picture of her in her hoodie so we can get some more clicks.
Okay. Yeah, you guys have got some cool merch up there. The Hoist and the Bruce Lee one I was looking at earlier. Those look cool as hell.
Thank you, man. Oh, that reminds me. Thank you. See, I knew why I had you on the show. Real quick, and yeah, we'll be above your head when you see the show too. Real quick, we're gonna hop into our picks right now, but I wanna know what you guys think. Leave a comment below. Who do you think the next Legend shirt I should be making? I've flirted with the idea of Mark Kerr. I was always a big fan of his back in early days. I don't want to do Ken Shamrock because I'm pretty sure I'll get sued. So I'll leave Ken Shamrock alone, but maybe Dan Severn. Let me know in the comments a legend that you think I should probably make a shirt for. And then we'll see if we can get that worked out. I'm planning to do a couple new designs coming up in the next week. So give me some ideas, guys. Leave a comment, guys and girls. Leave a comment below. And as Brandon says, like and subscribe. All right, let's go ahead and jump into some picks so we are not here all day long. Coming up this week, one championship on the same night as UFC. Actually, they're both on May 15th. They're going to be in Singapore. They're doing their Dangal event. They've tried to hype this event up to me, and I really wanted to like get into it. I love Brandon Vera, man. He's been champion now for 6 years not because he's been dominant, it's because he's had no one to fight. They brought in some of these like new kids. Bhullar's another new kid coming up, Indian fighter from Canada, trying to be the first major Indian champion in any major promotion. But we just saw what Vera did when he cut down to 205 or 225, I think was what he did, fought Singh, right, Brandon? What was that weight they fought when he fought
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the weight was.
I know it's like weird with their light heavyweights. Everything's a division up. So I think it was 220, 225 or something like that. I saw Brandon's interview, like when he was interviewing The Rock for Hobbs and Shaw, and like Brandon was actually like the media guy interviewing The Rock, and The Rock just kept gushing over Brandon, which I thought was hilarious. People don't know The Rock, even though he was like gave away the BMF title, he actually really is a big UFC and MMA fan. And people know Brandon Vera, especially in Hollywood, because he's done a lot of stunt work with a lot of these guys on some of these action movies. So Brandon Vera has been all over the world. He's in Guam, he's in the Philippines, he's in San Diego, LA. And of course he's from Norfolk, which isn't too far from where I was, and then where our other co-founder of Art of MMA, Erik Johnson. So Erik Johnson knows Brandon's story pretty well down there in the Norfolk, Hampton Roads area of Virginia. That said, my pick here is going to be Bhullar. Brandon has basically kind of gone untouched, and he looked horrible against Singh. Ungla just basically beat him up. Brandon's in his 40s now. He's not a young guy. If he does win, he'll probably get beat by DeRitter if DeRitter comes up like DeRitter said he was going to do. I just kind of see his road kind of coming to an end. And I think Singh, I didn't know much about him, so I watched some highlights this week to see what he's all about. I think Singh Bhullar is actually going to knock him off. Tim, you're our guest. I'll let you go ahead and make a pick first on this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, Singh Bhullar actually did grow up. He grew up in the same province that I grew up in. He's a good Canadian boy. I know he's fought all around the world. He's competed gold medalist in the Commonwealth Games. He's been in the Pan Am and Olympic Games representing, I think, Canada both times. He has fought in the UFC. So he has better wrestling pedigree than most MMA fighters will ever have. Like, he has more medals than Randy Couture does. And yet he goes into fights with the worst game plans. He's trying to stand and bang with these guys. Like, I want to see him using his pedigree, and he never does it. He never smothers guys. Like, he can probably out wrestle every single person at heavyweight, and he never does it. So given all that, I do really want to pick him, but I'm going to pick Brandon Vera here because I think Bhullar has just stood with too many guys to convince me that he's going to use his ground and pound wrestling acumen.
Brandon, who's your pick?
I'm going with Brandon Vera. Reason being is because both guys are actually coming off a long layoff. They're actually coming off the same time. They both fought at the same time last time they were on the same card together.
Yeah,
but
October 2019.
But the thing is, though, Brandon Vera is used to having long layoffs. Bhullar, we're not too sure about him. We don't know how it is that he's going to how he's going to respond after this layoff. So I'm going with Brandon Vera. He is the proven fighter. Saying he has done this for a while. Like I said, he's used to long layoffs. So I think it could go maybe decision, but I got Brandon Vera taking this one.
I will say this, and this is also why I'm in first place. But I will say this, that Bhullar's only loss was a submission back in 2018. Do you know, either one of you know how far you have to go back to see the only submission victory of Brandon Vera's career?
UFC 70s.
No, close.
Was it the Frank Mir fight? No. He knocked out Frank
Mir. UFC 60 back in 2006 against Asario Silva. He got the guillotine. Only submission victory of Vera's career. So the only weakness that his opponent has shown is not Brandon Vera's strength. So this is probably going to be a banger. They're probably going to go decision, but I am sticking with Bhullar. So Co-main event, and I'm not even sure it's actually technically the main event. It's just the only other high-level MMA fight. It's the girls. So Ritu Phogat is scheduled to be in some kind of Grand Prix or some kind of main women's card just weeks later, maybe a couple weeks later than this fight. She's fighting Ginn in this fight. I don't know much about either one. I know Ritu's the favorite. She's 4-0, and I know Gwynn's kind of a tough, been fighting for a while, 5-6 fighter. Brandon, who you got in this fight?
Oh man, just put me on the spot like that. Now I'm gonna go. You know what, man? I'm gonna because
it's only the two of us. Usually, you should be ready for this.
I know. You're gonna go with man. I'm gonna go with B. I'm gonna go with B Ginn, man. I'm gonna go with the upset.
Man, you're just trying to get your points back. Go ahead, Tim.
I'm going to sell you guys on Ritu Phogat. I wrote about her a few months ago, but she is someone to actually keep your eye on in the future of MMA. She is the opposite of my problems with Bhullar in that she is a gold medalist in the Commonwealth Games in wrestling, and she fights like it. She absolutely smothers people. Like she looks like Tatiana Suarez with like 70% top position control in her fights. I think she's a dark horse to actually win the entire atomweight tournament. That's a hot take there, but Ritu Phogat really does have a future in the sport, so I'm picking her.
Yeah, everything I've read, she's the next big thing. I saw a couple highlights. She looked impressive, obviously against girls that, would never fight in the UFC level, but she does look legitimate. And we've talked about this before. We may not know all the names of some of these one fighters like Ray Yunoke and stuff like that. But you know what? They can fight. They can fight their ass off. And the scouting department, for one, is pretty high level. Their backstage politics, it's a little Pride-esque. But, we can't control what goes on in a different, not even a different continent, a different hemisphere, all the way over. They're closer to Tim than they are to us. They're all the way over there. So we'll leave that alone. There is 3 other fights on that card. It will be on, I believe, Fight TV this weekend. I know it's not on network TV. I think it's on their app. So probably streaming as well.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
They do most of it. It's probably free on YouTube, honestly, on whatever morning they're doing it.
Yeah, I know it's going to be taped in the morning, aired at night, so it won't be really going head-to-head with the UFC. But speaking of which, time to get to our main event of the evening, UFC 262. We've been expecting this one for quite a while. The card has changed a number of times. Unfortunately for us, there was one fight I was really looking forward to. They got moved off it. The Hermanson-Shabazin fight. That's going to get moved back a week so they can make that card stronger next week. But for our sakes, we still have a good main event, good co-main event. It took forever for Dana to vacate the title off Khabib, but here we are. Oliveira, who by far is the most deserving guy in that division to be in this title fight. You can say Dustin Poirier. You can say a number of other people. Chandler, obviously the new guy. Poirier wanted the money with Conor, like Tim said earlier. So this is the fight we got. And quite honestly, Poirier said after the first fight, after he beat Conor last time, he was willing to let these two guys fight it out to see who deserves it. He didn't really have a problem with Michael Chandler. He just didn't think he deserved a title fight after one fight in the UFC. Well, he's going to get that title fight, and if he's the champ, that's who Dustin's going to have to fight if he does get past Conor for a second time. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and kick it to you, Tim. You're our guest. How do you see that fight going, and who do you got winning?
Oh, man, I'm so excited to talk about this fight.
It's and new one way or the other.
Man, that's right. So it's a vacant lightweight title. One of the weird things with Khabib stepping back is that Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira have been around the sport combined 25 years now, 66 MMA fights, 0 common opponents with Khabib. I thought I would find a Gleason Tebow or something like that in their past. Nope, not one common opponent with Khabib. So it's a very odd way of looking at a legitimate title, but here we are. These are the 2 most deserving guys. Charles Oliveira, when I was doing tape study on him, you always start at the Cub Swanson knockout. And in that knockout, what Cub Swanson did was he worked the body and then he faked low and then did a shifting overhead. And that knocked him out. That is the exact same combination that Michael Chandler used against Dan Hooker. It was to the opposite side, but it was still a fake low and then a shifting overhead. But since that time, Oliveira has fixed that hole. His next fight was Jeremy Stevens, so if he had a weakness to overhand rights, that fight we would have found out. And in that fight, he developed a shoulder roll, and we saw him ducking under the strikes to get takedowns. He went 2-2 in his original run in the UFC lightweight division, and then he went 7-5 at featherweight and missed weight 3 times in that. And since he's moved back to lightweight, he's 9-1. But since he moved to Chute Box Academy, he is 8-0. He's a kid who grew up on the favela. He had like arthritis as a kid or something like that. I saw the other day. He couldn't afford to train, so he sold salads out of a trailer with his mom, and that helped pay for Brazilian jiu-jitsu classes. He's a really he's the kind of guy that we want to talk about with like heart and determination, because he cut his teeth in the UFC. He had losses. He had clear weaknesses, and he got better over time. Now, as the actual breakdown of the fight, what I saw most from him in his last 8 fights is he does a check lead hook. And so I went and watched all of Chandler's fights again to see if he gets caught by a check lead hook. And my goodness, does he ever get caught by a check lead hook all the time. Eddie Alvarez pegged it with him a bunch of times, even in fights that he won. Let me bring it up here because I have a list. Benson Henderson caught him with it. The most recent fight, Brent Primus got knocked out a few minutes later, but Brent Primus scored a knockdown using a check lead hook. Chandler has also shown a weakness to leg kicks. He had the Will Brooks TKO. Oh no, that wasn't Will Brooks.
He lost to Will Brooks.
It was, yeah, he lost to Will Brooks twice. But who was the gentleman that he lost via calf kicks to? Oh, it was Brent Primus. Brent Primus back in 2017.
Yeah, the first fight.
The first fight. So yeah, Brent Primus 2017 beat him via calf kicks. And since that day, he has still shown a weakness to leg kicks. He either tries to throw an overhand, or he shoots a takedown, or he absorbs it. Even Dan Hooker in their fight, they fought for 3 minutes. Dan Hooker landed 8 strong leg kicks on him. So I think Oliveira has a few more tools, but it's hard not to pick Chandler just over a 5-round fight. He has 6 5-round fights in his career. Chandler might land that overhand at any given point. He's a guy who does fade in the later rounds, but we're talking about like Eddie Alvarez, where you're throwing a frantic pace at a guy for 5 rounds. I think the easiest way to beat Oliveira would be the way Paul Felder did it, or even parts of the Kevin Lee fight, where if you are wrestling with him, you can get him on his back and he'll go for submissions, and then you're able to land ground and pound. That's what Paul Felder did. Kevin Lee did it for moments within their fight. So I think Chandler's best path to victory is putting Oliveira on his back. Oliveira's best path to victory might be the same. Either go for a takedown or keep it standing. But overall, personally, I'm going to pick Oliveira, but I'm like 51-49 on that.
Yeah. And you know what? At this point, I think I'm just going to hand my whole show over to Tim, because that was probably the most detailed breakdown of anybody we've done going into this thing. Brandon, I can't even. Brandon, go ahead.
And I as well am picking Oliveira. Reason being is because I think, one, Oliveira's going to use his length better than Dan Hooker did. But also, two, he does forward pressure. I think he, like what Dan Hooker was tentative. He was trying to do a filling out period. I think Oliveira's going to learn from that, and Oliveira's going to go straight forward. He's going to walk Chandler down. Remember, like I say, Chandler is a credentialed wrestler, but lately he hasn't been using his wrestling. Like I say, man, he's been in love with the knockouts. You know what I'm saying? He's been training down at Sanford MMA, hanging out with Henry Hoof, dropping people, knocking people out. That's what he wants to do. So to me, he's going to want to stand with Oliveira, try to throw that overhand right. I think Oliveira's going to duck it, take him down, take care of business, just like how he did to Tony Ferguson. I think he might get a submission on Michael Chandler.
I'm picking Oliveira too. We'll make it a clean sweep on that one. I'm not even as indecisive as Tim is, or anybody else for that matter. What Tim said actually is exactly why I'm picking Oliveira. For one, Oliveira's evolution, just on this 8-fight win streak alone, has been night and day. Look in the beginning when he was like a 500 fighter in the UFC, and now all of a sudden he's like unbeatable. Because if you look at the Ferguson fight, if you look at basically everybody he's kind of rolled through, Kevin Lee, Jared Gordon, Nick Lentz, like the name goes on. Jim Miller, who's a grappler, he out-grappled Jim Miller. How many people do that, especially at that lighter weight class? Oliveira's only getting better. And what he showed against Tony Ferguson, even if it's Tony Ferguson in the later part of his career, was that he could strike as well. And he could be patient, and he could find where he wants to go, and he gets there because he wants to do it. Chandler has led with his chin more often than not. We saw it in Eddie Alvarez. We saw it with Will Brooks. You just mentioned how many people he got caught by that check hook. Leg kicks, you mentioned that. That's another thing that Oliveira does very well. He takes out your legs. So I do think it's going to be a Oliveira win, and I think it's going to be a stoppage. I think he's going to actually knock Chandler out probably in the first or second round, because Chandler does go balls to the wall. He does go for it. He does that against somebody who's so precise and so technical like Charles Oliveira. I think it's lights out. That's my pick on that one. Co-main event is going to be, speaking of which, Tony Ferguson and Darush. Brandon, who you got in that one?
Darush, there's no hesitation, man. I think Darush is on the up, Ferguson's on the down. And like I said, man, I've been high on Darush. Like I said, man, he's been training at King's MMA. That's where he's been working his kickboxing, working his striking. Like I said, he too is a jiu-jitsu black belt. Saying Tony Ferguson is a hard person to submit, but I wouldn't be surprised if Darush does get the submission on Tony Ferguson.
Tim?
I'm picking Dariush as well, but I feel like we're just going to come away from this fight feeling a little bit sad about the potential that Tony Ferguson had in his career, right? He was a guy, like, one of the charms that he has was that he took damage in fights that he won, because he was just going balls to the wall in those fights. He was willing to get hit. Anthony Pettis dropped him. He, had knockdowns. And I think that damage has started to wear on him as his career has gone later. He was training with Freddie Roach for this fight, which, like, I don't know, you're training for Dariush. I don't know why you're training specifically boxing, but he was training with Freddie Roach coming into this fight. But I think what I saw on the tape, Kevin Lee actually did show a roadmap. Kevin Lee is the greatest fighter in the world for the first 3 minutes. Okay. So Kevin Lee showed the roadmap of how to beat Tony Ferguson. He got him on his back. He landed ground and pound. Tony Ferguson kept throwing up the triangle, and eventually he got it. We saw pretty similar from Beneil in his last fight in 2 fights ago with Diego, where he just put him on his back, was able to have top position control for most of the fight and go for ground and pound. So I'm picking Beneil Dariush in this fight. And I don't know that Tony Ferguson is in his prime. I'm not sure if this is the same Tony who won the interim championship, but I know Beneil is going to be training for this fight like it's the biggest fight of his life.
So for devil's advocate purposes, last fight, I picked Tony over Oliveira because for 2 reasons. And I'll be very clear, I'm picking Darush in this fight. But for 2 reasons. Because he lost to Justin Gaethje in a bloodbath. That's not a knock on Tony. And Tony was also going through a lot of mental issues. He was going through a lot of out of the cage stuff. But I'll tell you one thing. That fight against Oliveira, he got outclassed, but he looked more like his old self. He had moments in that Oliveira fight. People were like just forgetting that. He had moments of looking like Tony Ferguson. Now, I don't know if he's had enough time to recover from that into this, because that was, only 5 months ago, 6 months ago. And Darush is on such a hot streak. I mean, he knocked out Close. He knocked out Holtzman. We just talked about that Gillespie Ferreira fight, how dangerous Diego Ferreira was. It was a split decision win, but he still looked good in that fight. If you had asked me 2 years ago, man, I would have picked Tony Ferguson. I wouldn't even have thought twice about it. But that was 2 years ago. And at this point, I think Tony Ferguson's more of a name than he is an opponent. He's going to be very tough. If it does go to the ground for any which way, it's going to be a very interesting fight, because Darush is on the ground, but Darush is also a knockout guy. Tony Ferguson, he gets you on that ground, he can wrap pretzels around you. So you saw him even against Oliveira. He kept trying to get out of things, even though he was getting beat up. It's going to be a more interesting fight than I think people give credit, but I'm going to go with the younger fighter, Darush, in that one. Now is the time we all get to pick a fight. I know which each guy's picking, so I'm going to go ahead and let Tim pick his fight first. What fight kind of stands out to you on this card that you want to talk about?
I want to talk about the Vivian Araujo, and I'm going to say the name wrong every single time, versus Caitlin Chukagian. And the main reason I want to talk about this fight is because we can talk about the amazing women's flyweight division, how excited we are for the future of the women's flyweight division. If Vivian wins, she's the only contender in that weight class. Like, that's how thin this weight class is. Vivian Araujo has, I think she's on a few fight win streak right now, but if she wins, she's actually next in line to face Valentina Shevchenko. I think she's the only person in the weight class who would have a win streak and ranked. I am picking Vivi to get it done. I think she probably wins via decision, but the main reason I wanted to talk about it is because, we got to fill out this weight class. Where's everybody else for the 125 women's?
I think they're all too young. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago with Miranda Maverick. They're getting her and Barbara getting ready to fight. I think the people that eventually could challenge Valentina might be too late, because by the time they get elevated to the statue of a contender, because yeah, they look great, but you're not going to throw Miranda Maverick in there with Valentina right now. You're not going to throw Macy Barber, who's had some hiccups, in there with her right now. Quite honestly, anybody not named Amanda doesn't really want to get in there with her right now. But
Wayne Calderwood, stop disrespecting my girl.
JoJo, I think JoJo Calderwood and Lauren Murphy is the other one, but like, man, just pass over him. Vivi's the only one.
Oh man, y'all gonna fight.
Yeah, sorry.
But I mean, my point is that I think Calderwood, look what she did last fight against Andrade. Like, god damn, like, you want to fight that girl? Shevchenko just absolutely abused Andrade with Andrade's technique. Like, she wrestled her. At this point, she is so good in every aspect of the fight game, and she just does it to prove a point at this point. Nobody in that weight class can handle her. If she wants to challenge, she needs to go back up to 135. And that's what even Amanda said. If she really wants to come fight me, she needs to fight at 135. She's hiding at 125. At 125, Lauren Murphy could, have a puncher's chance, but she's probably not going to. JoJo can give her I think JoJo actually is one of the people that can give her a tougher fight, because JoJo is so scrappy and does so many different things that maybe she can kind of throw her off her game a little bit, kind of the way Jennifer Maia did a little bit. But man, like, I don't know. Chukagian can put up a battle, but I agree. I think Vivian's going to probably win that fight. Brandon, what's your fight pick of the night? I know where you're going with this, but go ahead, Tiger Schulmans. Let's go.
Exactly. You know what it is, man. Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza. I got to support my teammate Shane Burgos. Going to get this W.
2 weeks in a row. Let's keep it going.
Exactly. Reason why is because when we know Edson Barboza, talented striker, but he's really known more for his kicks. He's not really known for that boxing. Also, too, Edson Barboza doesn't like getting pressured. That's what Shane's going to do. Shane's going to go for it, pressure him. He's going to use his boxing. If he's in close, Barboza can't kick. Barboza's going to need that space to get that kick. But Burgos isn't going to do it. I still remember when Jamie Varner had came back to the UFC, and then he told the story. He said, hey, I'll fight anybody at 155 at the time, but he didn't want to fight Edson Barboza. Who did they get? Edson Barboza. What did he do when he fought him? He just straight bum rushed Edson Barboza, took him down, was all up in his face. Barboza lost the fight. Shane's going to do the same thing, but he's going to keep it standing up. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a finish happen. Shane Burgos getting that hand raised.
Don't be mad at me. I think Shane's biggest strength is also his weakness. He does bum rush in. You saw against Calvin, Qatar kind of like bloodied him up and knocked him out. You saw with, a veteran like Josh Emmett, who kind of picked his way to beating Burgos. I love Shane. Like, Hurricane Shane, like, he's been great to us. We have a couple interviews with him. He's welcome to come on the show anytime. Man, I feel like he's going to go rushing in, and Barboza's going to hit one of those goddamn highlights that he does. I just don't know why. I think if the fight grinds out for a decision or even more than a round, I think it's Burgos's all day. But I think if it goes like how I think it's going to go, I just got this sneaky feeling he's going to rush in. Barboza's going to do something crazy just because – why not? It's him. And I think Shane's going to get knocked out. But I do want Shane to win. I just don't see it, man. I don't see it.
That's 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row you have picked against Tiger Schulmans. I just want you to know that. That's 2 weeks in a row, baby. Don't worry. Don't worry. We'll get it.
Hey, I was good luck last week. Not so good luck for Angela Hill. But I'm good luck for Tiger Schulmans. And in fairness, when you pick against somebody, they usually win too. So there you go. Man, he threw me all off. I'm gonna go out on another limb, man. Jacare, he's back in the cage after his loss to Kevin Holland. He's fighting almost a young up and coming version of himself. Andre Muniz, 20-4. He's only got a couple of fights in the UFC. He's off one of Dana White's Contender Series shows. Submission specialist. He's been knocked out. He's never been tapped. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think Muniz is going to do the rare feat. I think he's going to submit Jacare. I know that's blasphemy in the jiu-jitsu world, but Jacare is not a young kid anymore. He's 41 years old. He didn't lock in the submission attempts against Kevin Holland. That's why Kevin Holland was able to sit up and knock him out in that weird, like never seen before type situation. He's also a little punch drunk. You know, he went to war with Blachowicz. He went to war with Hermanson. He went to war with Gastelum. He knocked out Chris Weidman, but Chris Weidman's been up and down throughout the years. And I hope he's recovering. I hope everything's good. You know, he had to knock – Souza can knock somebody out. He knocked Brunson out in the first round with a great head kick, right? Like, he can do it. But this young kid – I mean, he's not young. He's 31, but he's way younger than Jacare. He's been on a tear. Last time he lost was all the way back in 2016. I see Menez making his name for himself and getting some more marquee fights off the back of Jacare. Anything else you guys want to talk about on that fight or that card? Silence? No.
I'll pick Jacare to win if it matters at all. I'm just picking with my heart because, hear me out. I'll list the reasons why I'm picking Jacare. I like Jacare.
That's it. That's
it. That's all the reason. That's all you need.
Brandon, you found your soulmate.
Yeah, Matt. Jacare is the coolest.
Isn't that why you picked Michelle Waterson last week?
Hey, man. Exactly. That's why I like Michelle Waterson. Hey,
right,
man.
well, go ahead.
I'm saying, either way, man. I think this should be a good card.
I think it's going to be a grappler's paradise, unless Jacare catches him coming in for a grapple, which is possible because Jacare trains with killers. He's gotten striking over the years. I just think he's too slow at this point to really do it. Real quick, I forgot to update this earlier. Right now, I'm 39-23 after going 3-2-1 last week with a no contest, which we don't really count thanks to the overturn, though. Honestly, both me and Brandon did pick Werdum anyway. And Brandon's 39-25. So thanks to, you know what? I'm only winning because of Angela Hill. So maybe I should just shout out Angela Hill because every time she gets a canceled fight, I get a half point ahead of Brandon. So as of this point, Tim will be entering our standings this week. We're still trying to figure out what kind of prize we're going to do at the end of the year. I think it'd be kind of cheesy if I just gave away a T-shirt, but we'll figure out something cool. You do have to get enough appearances to qualify. Brandon, have we come up with a number yet?
10.
10? All right, we'll go winning percentage based off at least 10 picks because Brandon and I are obviously picking a bunch of picks every single week, so it's kind of hard to keep up with us in numbers, but guest hosts are definitely eligible to win. Unfortunately, Eric's 0-3. Alex Soto's 2-0. So, Tim, let's see how you do this week. Thank you so much. Tell people where they can find you.
Man, huge thanks. Shout out to you guys. I really appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Oh, it was great having you on.
No, this is fantastic. It's nice like that. But yeah, so check me out, Tim Wheaton MMA. You can see me on Twitter or Instagram, Tim Wheaton MMA. Also, I have my own podcast, Calf Kick Sports. You can check that out here on YouTube. But if you go to the Twitter or Instagram, I'll have the link tree there, and everyone can find everything I've written and published.
Awesome. We'll make sure we put all that in the show notes so people can find you pretty easily. It's nice having somebody else do all the analytics so I can just sit back and shut up. It was awesome.
Appreciate it. Happy to be here. Happy to break it down with y'all.
We appreciate you having you, Brandon. Anything else you want to talk about today?
Nah, man. Just it's Wednesday, baby. Time to watch some AEW. Even though I didn't finish watching NXT last night, though.
NXT was awesome.
I know.
That 2 out of 3 fall match was pretty awesome. They started off and finished awesome. I started off having it in the background, and then as the show went on, I was like, it was all I was watching. My wife was talking. I didn't hear anything she said. I still don't know what she said. Hopefully she doesn't hear the replay of the show because I don't know what she said.
Good.
She said something. I don't. Anyway, let me stop getting in trouble. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Tim, thank you for joining it. Calf Kick Sports. Check out his show on YouTube. I'll put links to everything. You got to get some video shows too. Stop doing the audio.
Man,
Put
I
that
don't want
face
to
on video.
Man, I don't want to do my hair every day. This is exhausting.
Put a hat on like I do.
Yeah, that's a good idea. One sent me a hat. I'll wear their hat.
There you go. Just keep promoting. They love that shit. Shout out to one. They actually are one of the, we joke about the whole behind the scenes politics, but they are actually very media friendly. They do go out of their way to connect with the media, and they're kind of beloved that way. So hopefully their fights keep getting better. Their production value gets better. They kind of have like that Muay Thai backyard background, but then their fights kind of look like that. Spend some of those $1 billion that they have and put it into production. And I think they're going to have a pretty great product. So especially for Americans to watch. That's my 2 cents on that. Brandon, Tim, thank you so much. This has been another episode. We are back every Wednesday from now on, so make sure you stay tuned. Usually shows come out around between 6 and 7 o'clock. Every night that we do it was on Tuesday. Now it's on Wednesday, every Wednesday from here on out. I have a couple special guests next week as well to break down the results of UFC 262. Tim, you are welcome back anytime. Thank you so much. I would love to have you on more often. If anything, it gives me a chance to stop talking so much, and Brandon always loves when I stop talking. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Art of MMA. We're out.